Here I am. There you are. It's good to meet you. Welcome to the channel. I got some stuff to show you. RAW versus JPEG. Doesn't matter. I think it does. Not. Let's take a look. I'm going to be showing you 7 pictures that I took outside my neighborhood. Shot both in RAW and JPEG, and we're going to take a look at the differences just so we can see if it really matters. Do professionals really need to shoot RAW, or is it just a personal choice? Let's go ahead and get into it. So I have these 14 images pulled up here. Basically, I have my subject as the beautiful F1 that I just got. Shout out to my friend Gio. Beautiful pictures. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna show you right here because it looks so. You see it? You see it? Yeah. Okay. All right, man. So we have the beautiful F1 that's being used as a subject. So it's actually really cool. I don't have a lens on it at the moment, but you can see the reflection of the lake in the mirror of the camera. I think that's so awesome. So, but yeah, we're gonna have that. I have different shots that are exposed in different ways. For the first 2 pictures that you're gonna see, again, every single shot is shot in RAW and JPEG just to show a difference. So it was recorded at the same time in a sense. For this first side, I exposed for the actual camera. If you go ahead and take a look at this side, I exposed for the sky, so you can see, clear sky. Oh, not clear sky, but clouds and all that fun stuff. We love clouds, right? So you have that, and then I have a different set. I also shot it vertical. It doesn't really make a difference in terms of vertical or horizontal in a sense, but just to show you that as well. And then I shot with the sun behind me, basically putting all the light on the subject and the background as well. So even light across all of it. So now it's kind of easier to expose. We also have backlight that was shot as well. So this shot was shot facing the sun. So I'm facing the sun and the sun is behind the camera in this picture. And then you have some more different, just random shots with, again, the camera, the subject facing the sun as well. Different scenarios can mean different things for RAWs and JPEGs. So we'll go ahead and take a look into that now. So let's go ahead and start with the first picture here. So this is a RAW. I was shooting with the Canon RP. You can see my settings down here. So it's a 50 millimeter. This is the old EF mount 1.4, but I shot all of these at f8 if I'm not mistaken. At least the majority of it in f8. 1/60th of a second and ISO 100. I kept ISO 100 all across the board, okay? So we'll go ahead and take a look into that. I could see if it makes it any easier to just slap some presets on it. But before we go ahead and get the presets, let's just see what it looks like to edit regular and see how it affects the picture, right? Okay, so I'm using Capture One. If this kind of looks a little bit foreign to you, people also use Lightroom as well. Nothing wrong with that. I just prefer Capture One at this point in time in my workflow. Hopefully your pictures are properly exposed, meaning that, they're not necessarily too bright or too dark. You have a good balance of blacks and whites. You have a good balance of color, of light balance, of temperature, things like that. But sometimes you do have to go ahead and adjust that exposure button. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like here. So we have an overexposed, the whites become too bright. Once it becomes too bright, you lose detail. So that's why we have this first picture that's kind of overexposed here. So if you set that back to normal, it's just slightly overexposed. You can kind of see the sky or make out some clouds. You can definitely see the houses in the background. There's a camera there. You can see the camera, but it's also dark. So we have a little bit of lifting up in the shadows and we have a little bringing down the highlights. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. And we'll bring the highlights down there so you see the skies kind of coming back. All right, so we have that there. If anything, I'm going to go down to the shadows. You have the shadows. So this is going to be focusing on the camera now. So let's go ahead and see if we can bring some of the shadows out of that camera. It looks a little bit faded, but it's bringing back a little bit of it. So that's fine. I can pop down some of the blacks to kind of create that. So let's just look at a simple before and after. Already a significant difference, right? So you see it's kind of like better exposed in a sense. Let's turn some of the brightness down. I'll just do like a little tweaking just to see if I can expose this to my liking the best way I want, and then we'll go from there. Cool. All right, so you have technically my final image. I'm not going to do too much because we're not trying to edit it all crazy like that, but this is just to properly expose it as if I were to show this to someone as a final edit in a sense, right? So we have that. Let's go ahead and look at it before and after. So big difference from that. So you see the water is overexposed as well as the sky. That after kind of brings the blue back into the water as well as the sky, and then we kind of have a better highlight on the actual camera. You can even see the lake, which is so freaking awesome, inside the mirror of the camera. Cool. All right, so in that sense, it should be the same for the JPEG, right? So let's go ahead and just copy and paste, and let's see if we can correct the same thing in the JPEG. So let's go ahead and do that. Boom. That's weird, right? Okay, so I just copied and pasted the same thing. Boom, 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 boom. It looks a little nasty, don't it? So there's definitely a lot of information that can be lost in JPEG, or it's not at least just transferred over, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and reset this back to normal. So again, this is just using regular exposure tabs, and already you kind of see that it's giving like this little grayish tint, and that's because the sky and the water are overexposed, and when you're overexposed, you lose detail. Sometimes you can't get that detail back, especially in the JPEG. So that's why a lot of photographers tend to use RAW, because if a picture is not properly exposed, they might not be able to get that color back. Exposure is not working. We can try brightness, and again, we're just trying to get the clouds back here, but those clouds are looking like they do not want to show. So this is already showing like, yeah, this might be shook. So this is one of the big reasons. I can saturate it a little bit and bring back the color of the water, but it's still not the same. It's not as in depth. I can't do as much as opposed to the raw picture that we have here, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the next one here. And we're gonna go ahead and just fast forward this. We're gonna expose for this proper one. Again, I exposed for the background instead of the camera. So now it should be easier to bring up the shadows instead of the highlights, right? So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, boom. So I went ahead and exposed for the second picture now. So we kind of have it a little bit just around the same edit as the first picture. So it shouldn't look too much different. And again, there's a before and after for you. So this one started off underexposed. You went ahead and exposed, brought the shadows up to try and see, make sure we could see the camera and everything. So just about the same with those two raw files. Now we're gonna go ahead and copy this picture here. We copy the settings from this picture, and we're gonna transfer it over to the same JPEG, right? So just so you know, so you see that's the before of that one. This is the new JPEG that we're transferring the files over to. So now it's not too far off, but you still see there's a little bit of a color difference, right? So there's some of the saturation that's definitely lost. So let's see if we can bring that back a little bit more. And you see again with this underexposed file, it is a little bit easier to kind of bring back those colors. So maybe this could also be different from camera to camera. So you might have a camera that's better with overexposed JPEGs. You might have a camera that's better with underexposed JPEGs. It really depends on the camera. But it kind of comes down to it in most camera sizes that regardless of RAW versus JPEG, you will have more detail in the RAW. Okay, so now we're facing the sun. We're looking at the sun. This is going to be, in my opinion, or at least my prediction, this should be easier to go ahead and edit on both sides to get them to look the same at least. So let's go ahead and see what we got here. Okay, boom. So we got the picture here. We're good. We exposed it. Here's a little before and after. Boom. So a little bit underexposed. went ahead and exposed for that. So now let's go ahead and copy this. We're going to transfer it over to JPEG and let's see what happens. Okay, so again, not too far off, but again, you see there's a little bit of color difference if you go ahead and look at both side to side. I probably could have done that for the first one, but it's okay. It's okay. So the green saturation didn't transfer over as much. You can see if you can pull that up just a little bit and see what happens with it. And even like it didn't even look like it was moving at first. So now you see that I'm having more. I'm going to have to tweak more to try and get these greens to look the same. So now I'm actually going into the edit and doing different things. And this might be more work than needed to go ahead and get, you know, that same produced image. So now it kind of looks a little bit more similar to the raw file. So the real question is, after all this time, are JPEGs actually bad? Should people only shoot RAW? Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of photographers that only shoot in RAW and swear by only shooting in RAW, and that is totally okay. There are some other photographers that only really shoot in JPEG and don't necessarily see a necessity to shoot in RAW at certain times in their career. And honestly, both work. It's really what's up to you. If you know that your camera can handle and produce really good JPEGs and you're going to be fine with the picture that's going to come out of it, then you should be fine. Let the camera do its thing like a regular iPhone would. And that's totally fine for some certain cases. I don't plan to edit them, but I'm still going to be taking a large amount of pictures. I don't want to have all that file size on me. And, you know, I'll settle it that way. There are also cases where you need to be able to develop those pictures. Sometimes you might have it a certain way and you're like, yeah, I need this to look a certain way so I can go in and tweak this and tweak that, and I need to go into Photoshop and I need to liquefy and I need to all that stuff. So in that case, a raw file might be necessary and more suited for your need in that sense. Yeah, at the end of the day, it does matter, but it also doesn't. It depends on how you shoot and how you choose to shoot. As long as you're happy with the end result, art is art, man. So thank you for tuning in. We'll definitely be seeing more of each other in the future, I hope. My name is EJ, but you can call me Split. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and I will see you next time. Nice.